They said it was my fault and this and that, but sometimes a player depends on the environment, the family that is created around him. And I think that in that moment, we weren't really a family. Since there needed to be someone to blame, they blamed me. Now, that is him making excuses. Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. I hope you've been enjoying the videos recently. I've been trying to kind of make it just a bit more frequent, a bit more kind of just opinions that pop out of my head, and then I sit down and then I chat with you. That's why I invested in trying to get a bit of a better setup to allow myself to do that. And so I saw something on the internet and I thought, yeah, let's have a quick 5-minute chat. So this video might not be very long. These are just going to be my kind of thoughts on it. And because I thought it was really, really interesting. So Alexis Sanchez has revealed in an Instagram post that he wanted to leave Man United as soon as the end of his first ever training session. And he's been quite open about what his feelings were at Man United. And I think we all understand that it didn't work out at all for him. But I thought I'd just quickly have a video on this and talk about his situation, how badly it went for him at Manchester United. But then the kind of, the antagonist, if you're making Sanchez the protagonist in this story, because I think a lot of the time when we look at football, we look at it as very black and white, and we also see it from the veneer of outside and basically the results and the performances in those 90 minutes. But what affects those 90 minutes? And that's what Alexis Sanchez has said. His time at Man United has come to an end. And he's kind of revealed how he was feeling throughout, which I think is something that is really, really great. I think it's something that needs to happen more with footballers. And I think they need the safety to be honest about how they feel about things, because I think that will allow us all to have a bit more empathy about them when they're going through their careers. So I'm going to talk about all of that in this video. If you are enjoying this kind of content where I just sit down and have a chat with you about a story, then you can let me know 2 ways. 1, you can subscribe to the channel. 2, you can hit the like button. And so if you are enjoying this kind of content, do let me know. And on my Twitter, make sure you let me know when you want me to talk about something, even if it is for 5, 6, 7 minutes. But the way that I talk, probably it'll be even more than that. We'll see. So let's have a look at this story then. Alexis Sanchez wanted Manchester United exit after first training session. Sanchez on being dropped by Jose Mourinho talks about that as well in this Instagram video, which of course is in Spanish, so I'm kind of relying on the translation of all of it. But I think it's quite clear of what's happened. But he says here, I told myself it couldn't be possible to go from one of the best players in the Premier League to that in the space of 5 months. And by that, he means being dropped by Jose Mourinho. So he was dropped by Jose Mourinho in September. If you remember, he, of course, went with that very famous piano announcement video in January 2018 after being a bit difficult with Arsenal. It was one of the biggest running storylines in the Premier League, which was Alexis Sanchez had been the main man for Arsenal, had been superb for Arsenal for several years. He was starting to not perform the way that he had done. He was starting to not play as much for Arsenal because he clearly wanted a move to a different club. So he got his move. He moved in January. He made his way to Man United. Obviously, Arsenal fans aren't going to be too happy with that. They've had those problems in the past, the likes of Van Persie being that hero for the Arsenal faithful, and then moving to Man United. And you saw the same with Alexis Sanchez. But it didn't work, obviously. He'd been playing summer after summer with Chile, winning Copa Americas. But I remember chatting to Hugh Wizzy about this, actually, and he was saying he's done. And I think part of that was him wanting him to be done as a player. But the fair evidence that he kind of put towards it was the amount of games that he was playing season after season, summer after summer. He wasn't really having that break. That said, we've seen now with the likes of Sadio Mane and a lot of different players that very few players actually have too long a break. So I was always under the impression that, like Sanchez says himself, you can't just go from being the best player in the Premier League to a player who's just not even capable of doing anything or getting in the starting lineup, even if it is Man United, because this is a Man United that was struggling and needed a player like Alexis Sanchez, so much so that they kind of gazumped. Yep, I used the word gazumped. Man City of all clubs to get him there. So he goes on to talk about the fact that he went to his first training session and at the end of that first training session, he came back and spoke to his people, or his friends and families, and he said that can we rip up the contract? Can we call it a day now? Obviously, he wasn't able to do that. Jose Mourinho stuck with him for the rest of that season, but then it was in September in a game against West Ham that he dropped him. And as we all know, two-year spell at Man United, just 5 goals in 45 appearances. He's not been the Alexis Sanchez of old and by of old of the Arsenal team, where he was absolutely everything to that football team. Let's not forget that. You think about the how crucial Aubameyang is to Arsenal. Alexis Sanchez was in the exact same vein for Arsenal, and they were looking to do anything to keep him and weren't able to do it. The reason I'm making a video about this is that I thought it was just really interesting to see that Alexis Sanchez has finally kind of come out and spoken about how he felt. He says here, I accepted the opportunity to go to United. It felt tempting and it was something good for me. I liked the club a lot. When I was a kid, eventually I signed, but I didn't ask for information on what was happening inside the club. That's the important thing I kind of want to touch on here. What is going on inside of these clubs? Sometimes there are things that you don't realise until you get there. And I remember the first training session I realised a lot of things. After the session, I got home and told my family, can you not rip up the contract and go back to Arsenal? They laughed and he had to get on with it. Of course he did. He goes on to say they weren't really a family. And I think that the criticism there is probably put at the door of Jose Mourinho. Now, Jose Mourinho's management style is coming to full focus. Full focus? A certain focus. It's being put through the prism of an Amazon Prime documentary right now. But you've kind of seen the element of ruthlessness from Jose Mourinho, but also if you're looking to look at Jose Mourinho in the best light possible, he has a lot of charisma, but you also see him picking out certain players in that Spurs squad when it comes to the All or Nothing documentary and pushing their buttons a little bit, wanting to push their buttons a little bit and wanting to see how they bend. Do they come back stronger or do they break? And I think that's the big thing here. When it comes to Alexis Sanchez and it comes to any footballer, the personality of that footballer is crucial. And for Jose Mourinho, he wants to surround himself with hardened elite players. He's seen that those are the kind of players who can deal with a certain amount of pressure. Look, and this is elite top level football. There is constant pressure on you. So you need to be able to be hardened to that. And so Jose Mourinho looks to filter and sift out the players that might be, do have that elite talent, but might not have that psychological switch to just be about the task in hand, to be task oriented instead of letting your emotions be a part of how you play football. Now, emotions are inevitable in football, and so you can't kind of get away from that. But I find it really, really interesting that there are players that will suit certain clubs and certain managers, i.e. Arsene Wenger for Alexis Sanchez, where you saw the best out of him, because on an emotional level, he wasn't pushed too far. He was allowed to be the hero and not have that kind of pressure come from inside the club. He goes to Man United and he has those problems because he's pushed, because they're demanding the very best from him, and he wasn't able to deliver. And Jose Mourinho continues in that vein. And I think now, when you look at what Alexis Sanchez says here, they said it was my fault and this and that, but sometimes a player depends on the environment, the family that is created around him. And I think that in that moment, we weren't really a family. And that translated onto the pitch. And since there needed to be someone to blame, they blamed me. Now, that is him making excuses at the end of the day. But is Jose Mourinho, could he have managed him better? Could he have seen the personality traits of Alexis Sanchez and what he needed? Or is it just not a good fit where, although you're bringing in a player who's happy to be this sort of figurehead of a club, the pressure that comes along with it when it's Manchester United and when it's Jose Mourinho, you add those two elements into it, he struggled. He clearly struggled. And he's gone on to Inter Milan, and we can show his stats here when it comes to Inter Milan. He's not in their team of the season, according to who scored. If you look at his results himself, just 4 goals, 8 assists, which isn't too bad. But if you look at his games as well, you can see that he's not actually played that many games. 15 games coming on as a substitute this season for Inter Milan, and starting just 13 games, getting 3 goals. So in a team that did very, very well. So he's looking to find his feet again, but he's now in a new battle at Inter Milan where there's a lot of really, really high quality players. But I come back to the element of Jose Mourinho and the environment that he had to deal with in that scenario. And this is the final point that I want to make with it, is that the environment for Jose Mourinho is as integral as the tactics when it comes to his success. If you look at the clubs that he's been at, yes, he's had money to spend. And when you are an elite manager for a top six side, you will have a certain amount of money to spend. But when you bring in certain players, they need to fit the philosophy of the manager, probably more so than the squad. Because if you've got a charismatic maverick like Jose Mourinho as the manager, he's going to lead. So he just needs a couple more guys to help him go with it. Normally, he looks to the top players in any side and goes, I need you to follow me here. And he finds out who his allies are, and he marches on with them. You saw that at Chelsea. At Chelsea, he was so exciting that, and I think the players were malleable enough, but also had the quality to then become the side that they became. At Manchester United, he got certain elements of it, and they were at times hard to beat. Of course, they won the Europa League, which was great for them. FA Cup, I think they got as well. Am I right? Might be wrong. I'm trying to remember. And so he got the trophies because he gets the job done a lot of the time. But there will be casualties along the way. Not because he's this Machiavellian dude, which he kind of is, but because it's about styles. And I thought this was just an interesting nuanced point that the environment is important. The environment needs to fit for the player. But with Jose Mourinho, what we'll see with this Spurs team is you've probably got more malleable players than you do at Manchester United. And will he be able to create the environment that he wants? And will it be the environment that the squad wants? That's where these casualties come with Ndombele that we've seen, with Alexis Sanchez that we've seen, with numerous players with Jose Mourinho, because he wants a certain type. And he thought he had it with Alexis Sanchez, but it turns out Alexis Sanchez is far more sensitive than we realise. And I don't mean that as a bad point. I'm very sensitive. It's okay to be sensitive. But it means that you maybe need a little bit of a different environment because of the pressure that's going to be on you is going to be intense when you're managed by Jose Mourinho. And that is a big reason why Alexis Sanchez wanted to get away from this club and wanted to move on with the rest of his career. And he knew that within the first training session. The first training session. That's amazing. And we've not seen the same Alexis Sanchez since. And maybe we won't again, because I think, when you have that momentum and you're playing great and you're feeling great, you think it's going to last forever, I presume. But it hasn't. So I just thought it was an interesting one. A really, really quick video from me. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on Alexis Sanchez, on his move and time at Manchester United, on the player that he is now as well at Inter Milan. I'm sure some of you have probably seen a bit more of him than I have. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. Subscribe to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. So much content coming on YouTube. And I'll see you next time.